Hello and good evening. It's time for one on one. It's been a minute that I had a one on one session. One on one is such an amazing podcast. It's something that has become a labor of love in our effort to have conversations with amazing individuals who don't get enough airtime, if you ask me, don't get enough opportunities to share their story, share their truth, connect with audiences from all over the world. And today is going to be one of those days where we have a really interesting conversation. Doosuur Victoria Tilley-Gyado is a visionary community builder, and she is a social impact advocate with over a decade of high-level project management experience in the creative industry. Now, she's the founder of Small Business Big World. It's a brand consulting, multifaceted creative agency which offers PR consultancy, particularly in the entertainment industry. Yeah, she has a very well rounded knowledge in this field. She also founded Her Hope Initiative, which is a women's rights advocacy group advancing the conversation around sex and human trafficking. Today, Doosuur is going to share her insights on driving innovation and growth in Africa's creative industry. It is a pleasure to have her join us today. Are you there with me? I think you are. How are you doing, Dosu? Welcome,
Hi,
Dosu.
Titi. Thank you,
How's
Titi. Thank you
it
for having
going?
me. It's going,
Welcome.
it's going well. It's going well, as we say in this economy, as well as it can go.
In this economy. That is such a strong statement these days. And it's a statement that rings true for almost every social status. I don't think people are thinking social status these days when they go to the market. They just think, what can the cash I have in hand purchase today? And that's a conversation for another day. Let's not enter there. Let's not enter that rabbit hole.
True.
But let me
Very
just
true.
give a little backstory to why this conversation is relevant today. Of course, we're talking about driving innovation and growth in Africa's creative industry. Now, the creative industry has shown amazing, tremendous potential and growth over the years, as you probably agree with me, particularly through the global rise of Afrobeats. This entertainment sector is huge. There's so many challenges, however, as well as opportunities for innovation and growth. Now, as the founder of Small Business Big World, Dosu is at the forefront of all this transformation. She's right there in the face of it. But she's also had the opportunity to leverage her extensive experience in PR and communications. But what has it been like um, being right there in the industry, essentially depending on the industry to be your livelihood? We are the consumers of entertainment. We are the consumers of what you are giving out. And we see where, the pitfalls are, but we also enjoy it. But what is it like having to live off this industry? Talk to us.
What a deep, deep, deep question. What is it like having to live off this industry? There are layers to this
Mm,
industry. And I can throw that question right back at you, Titi, because you're in this industry and you've
yeah.
managed to live successfully for many years. So there's definitely a lot of success to be gained in this industry. And the reason for that is because we're only just getting started. This is an untapped mine, untapped, what would I say? A minefield. Mine sounds like bombs
Mm,
popping off, but it's largely untapped. The creative industry in Africa is largely untapped. So as we continue to break barriers, we continue to record massive success. What it's been like working in this creative industry for close to 15 years now has been a steady growth, has been a steady climb. There have been moments of going down, but having to rise right back up because there are opportunities abound. So I've transitioned from one role to another, and to the grace of God, I've done so successfully. I've learned a lot along the line. There are no textbooks that teach us in Africa here how to do this industry. We're pioneering it. A lot of us have pioneered it, and we have built our own structure, and that structure is standing. I can definitely say that we need a lot more to help enforce these structures that we have created, but it's been successful. Living, working in the creative industry for near 15 years, I can record more successes than I can disappointments or failures, to be honest.
I'm actually pleased to hear that from you, because I've heard many a lament or many a lamentation from people in the industry for one reason or the other. I'm so pleased that you're able to sort of find a balance and gauge the fact that you've been blessed by the industry. You're one of the blessed ones. You're one of the ones that can tell a positive story and talk about what you've learned from it. But I know that you've had an extremely impressive career spanning from Chocolate City Music. Am I right? Am I right? Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Red Box, yeah.
Correct.
Small Business Big World is your new baby. So you need to let us in on how that transition happened from Chocolate City to Red Box. That's all different worlds. And now to what you're doing right now. Small Business Big World. Talk to us.
And SOMI Solutions in there as well. So I
Oh,
have gone from
of course.
right. So one thing about me and the work that I do, I'm very a behind the scenes person in this industry because I'm very much an organizer and an operations and a structure builder. So I have gone from working in Chocolate City, in the Oleku days, the MI action film days, the Jesse Chags, Waiting Day days, and Brimo, Good Morning, and all of that. So working behind the scenes, then working in setting up Redbox as an event company, working at SOMI Solutions as an operations head. Small Business Big World is 8 years old, so not a brand new baby, but very much. What we are is a community of creative consultants. So I manage a community of creative consultants, and we are here to show as a prototype of what's working in the future should be like, working with creatives, especially when creatives are facing challenges, economic challenges, structural challenges, and everything that comes with it. I haven't cracked the ultimate code to how to do that, but we're well on the way to doing that. And so Small Business Big World, as a community of creative consultants, is setting itself to be something of a pioneer. I'm interested in always pioneering stuff because I just feel like we need to be throwing solutions to ourselves. We need to create our own solutions for ourselves. So that is how we operate as a community of creative consultants. We have a prototype. So do you want me to go into explaining what that looks
Please,
like?
please do. Please do. Let us know. Let us in.
Okay, so I like to describe Small Business Big World as a mansion. Let's say your family house in the village is a mansion, and inside that mansion are several rooms, and each of this room has its services, but more importantly has its experts that is heading that service.
Okay.
I don't know everything and I don't pretend to know everything, so I very much believe in collaborative efforts, and each person in their field as an expert. Most times, now let's be honest, most times within the creative industry, a lot of the criticism you'll hear is that creatives are not, you guys are just all over the place. There's no structure. Oh, I sent something to a graphic designer to design for me. 1 month later, I'm calling and the person isn't picking up their phone. Or this event decorator has done this and that to me, or I need this musician to write this jingle for me, or whatever it is. So cracking the code of working with creatives is exactly what the larger structure of the mansion is, and the mansion itself is the structure.
Mm.
So to work with these creative consultants, you need some kind of a buffer. Not all creatives good for interfacing with clients, and not all clients should interface with creatives. There has to be a buffer, and that's where we come in. That's where I come in specifically, and it serves kind of as a one-stop shop for anything that you have that has to do with a creative project. You come here, and we work as we execute as an agency. So from fruition to execution, we'll have you covered. We'll handle literally everything from the branding, even branding, conceptualizing, everything, everything really. There's a someone everywhere. We have HR, we have legal, people who have studied law specifically for entertainment, and copyright law. So we have a house full of experts, a house full of creative expert consultants.
Honestly, I am so interested in learning more about what the company has been able to achieve over the years. You said 8 years. That is a small child in terms of age of years.
I have one. I
some
have one. So yeah, you're right.
some companies, agencies, platforms like yours have been known to crash within the first, from infancy, max 2 years. You need to share with us some of these insights that you've gained from managing this platform. And I use the term managing because in Nigeria, everything we do is about management.
Absolutely.
Yes, we are leaders, we are leading, but yeah, we're managing most
Yeah.
of the time. So let us know, give us some of those key insights you've gained.
I would be a trillionaire if I had if I have these things off in my hand to just fill out there. I would be a trillionaire. I'm certain of it. I like that you stopped right at that picture that speaks about ikigai on our
Yeah,
social media
yeah,
page,
yeah,
because ikigai is a combination of all these things that a creative is. We have to find a balance, and we have to find inside of us how to express creatively, but still make a living, make money
mm,
from this creativity. So
mm,
I think one of the driving factors is Nigeria. One of the driving factors is surviving. So waking up when you're down and deciding that you just can't stay down. For me, I was born with a fire inside of me that never quenches. I might stay low for a short while, but that fire, I try to put it into everybody that I work with. I try to pull out passion out of people that I work with. But passion without being able to feed yourself is a hobby. So what we are very, very specific about is this not being a hobby, this being a means of not only that you're using this to survive, but you're doing something here that the world needs. And you're doing something very important that the world needs. So igniting passions in people is how I think we have been able to have some continuity over 8 years and going, by the grace of God.
8 years and counting, and standing strong, I have to say. So let's talk objectives now. Um, there are probably, some one or two young people watching presently wondering, okay, look, this industry feels a bit saturated. It feels like everyone has already done everything. It feels like everyone is copying everyone else, but I want to stand out. I want to do something different. Let's talk about your objectives as founder and how they sort of set you apart. And let's see what we can, teach someone.
So it looks oversaturated, honestly. Even from where I'm standing, it's still saturated. But what I know for a fact is nobody is you, and nobody can bring your source to the game. And there is more than enough space for everybody's source to be felt, to be seen, and to be respected. Um, there's still a large part of this industry that people aren't going into. That I will even direct it and say that young girls are not looking at opportunities in those areas. There's the entire technical arm of the creative industry is largely untapped by women. And I think that women bring a
When you say
different
technical, what
perspective
does that mean? What does that mean? Technical.
with the technical part. So who
Yeah.
put this program together? Who is behind the scenes making sure that your mic is working? Who is making sure that the lights are how they should be? Who is
Mm,
making sure of, now let me even just elaborate, speaking on lights and lighting.
mm,
So I just watched, and I'm sure a lot of us have all just watched Supercell,
mm,
the on Netflix.
mm.
And what the director Rapman talked about being the most exciting part of that project was the lighting. He talked
Wow.
about the fact that this was the first time he had ever shot anything. I think, in fact, in the world, is the first time that lighting was tuned to be favorable to our black skin.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, and then I'll give another analogy example, and then I'll make my point. Cars,
Mm.
seatbelts.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a
Yeah.
woman. This thing cutting me here. Why? So I think that there is still room for women to bring innovation into the creative industry from the perspective that we are looking at things from. So I'm certain that a woman was in that room having the conversation about lighting and saying it doesn't favor us black ladies when our hair is red and our skin is this or whatever. We have to get the right kind of lighting to make us more confident when we appear on camera and not squeamish. So I know that it looks overly saturated, but we still have room for people to develop themselves as experts. So yes, there are a lot of people doing a lot of things, but there's still room to be an expert, and there's still a lot of room for young women to come and flood this industry in other areas.
I'm so interested in whenever I see a woman involved in a project, I just feel ginger to be part of it a bit more. So for instance, if it's a weird thing, but if I get a phone call about a project that maybe I'm not getting paid that much for, I'm just going to put that air quote there. I'm probably more likely going to say yes if it's a woman that approached me. I don't know whether it's sentimental reasons or it's just to encourage whatever woman is working in that particular department or sector, because she's been given a job to do. She's been given there are high expectations of her, pulling through in that particular field. I'm more likely to say yes if it's a woman as opposed to if it's a guy. I don't know whether it's just sentimental,
I, I'm I'm
but
I'm that way inclined too.
and especially if it's an African woman, another sentimental thing. But hey, I feel like if we have um, a lot more intentionality about it, we're gonna help this industry move further and further faster if we have that mindset. Let's touch on, and this is in regards to challenges. So you have that intense competitive spirit that also comes from women who know what they want, who know how to get things done, and they do their job well. But some people see it as a challenge for the industry, a negative challenge, and some people see it as a positive challenge in the right direction. But what do you think?
About facing challenges,
Yeah.
I'm up for a challenge any
Mm,
day. I'm up for a challenge, except when it's technologically inclined. Then I'm up for the challenge with assistance.
mm,
But I grew up as an athlete, so I have the mindset and training to take on an obstacle, look at it from every angle that I can attack it, and get right into strategic ways to overcome that challenge. So challenges help us grow. Challenges are the only way that you can grow, or you can even gauge your growth. How you reacted, how you responded to a challenge when it came up last week versus how you're reacting and adapting to it this week is really important.
mm.
One thing about us in Nigeria is we're adaptable. We are adaptable and we face challenges every day. And it is for our resilience that we're known in the world.
Yeah. Sure.
And it is enough to say that face a challenge, don't let a challenge overpower you, don't feel I mean, yesterday I literally felt the weight of the world on me. I actually cried yesterday, and I have not really been building up to these years. I haven't been a crier. I haven't been one to stop and cry and let out emotion and feel overwhelmed. But thank you, the Western world. Thank you, Oyibos, that are teaching us about mental health and letting out steam. And it's just important, because once you do it, you should be able to put the pieces on the table. These tiers, this is what I produced from these tiers. So now what next?
Yeah.
But it shouldn't stop you. It should not stop you. I think the only way that you can be stopped is that you're physically incapable of doing the thing that you've set out to do, or you're not alive. But other than
Mm.
that, just try. Just try. Nobody is laughing at anybody who is trying. So just
So
try.
so that the trying thing is the challenges that seem to be prevalent here in Africa mostly. Now there are those key, issues we always end up talking about here in Nigeria, things like power, things like, traffic, those basic things. But those little basic things could trigger mental breakdown, especially especially if you have a huge client who's paid a lot of money and has paid to make sure that these things don't happen. But I don't know if those challenges are still considered the biggest challenges for the creative industry right now. But let's break it down from your perspective. What sort of challenges should someone expect if they decided to come into the industry today?
As you mentioned, with Nigeria, there's some very. I'm so sorry, my lighting just fell, and there's no lady in the room but myself to pick myself back up. So, do you want to give me a minute to pick the light back up, please?
All right, I can give you that. I can give you that. All right. If you're just tuning in, this is One on One. My name is Titi Oyinsan. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're having an interesting conversation on driving innovation and growth in Africa's creative industry. We have Doosuur here. She is the founder of rather small business, Big World, and of course, Her Hope Initiative. We're talking a bit about challenges just now facing the creative industry.
Yes. So
Mm.
the number one challenge facing the creative industry is funding. It's the
Mm.
big F word.
Mm.
The more important one than the other one everybody will be screaming
Yeah.
out when they're upset. But funding is a huge challenge in the creative industry. And the reasons I think for this are largely because it is not we have not fully established this industry to get the recognition, the respect that it deserves. And what I mean by that is what policies are in place to protect and support the creative industry. So yes, there's funding. I've mentioned that, but policies as well. We don't have enough policies supporting us and protecting us. And when I say policies, think about intellectual property, think about thefts in general,
Mm.
insurance, and so on. So this is still these are major challenges. When you see a lot of these conferences, summits, and a lot of them are constantly coming up on our screens, a lot of the conversation is around this. We still need access to funding to help us materialize what's in our minds. If you don't put out what is in your mind, you become stifled, you become discontent, and then it might even hinder your creative process. You might not want to put out any more work. So it's dangerous. It's dangerous for us to not have access to this funding as we should.
And this funding, let's say in other countries in the Western world, where is it coming from?
Largely the government would fund a lot of creatives abroad, because you
Mm.
see in institutions there is huge funding for the creative arts. There's theaters built in universities,
Mm.
theater groups that will tour their countries. I don't know when last I heard that a Nigerian university theater group was touring anywhere. Of course, safety in the country is a major issue, security. There was one time young people just could not walk down the streets of Lagos with their laptops. They were being suspected to be criminals for whatever reasons. There was a time, I hope we're out of that time, but certain hairstyles you couldn't keep, certain clothes you couldn't wear. I know you're going to help me with it.
Stereotyped.
You would be stereotyped.
Yeah.
And a lot of danger would come to you just because you're trying to express creatively in how you look and in what you're doing. But you can see that in other countries, any people can, there are, so when I said the government supports, produces a lot of the funding that creatives use in other countries, there are literally little towns within towns that are just for creatives. So in London, you have an area like Camden that a creative can go to and completely express without fear of anything. And if you're in there in Camden in a suit, you're the odd one out. You're not supposed to be in that place. So we don't have that. We don't have that in Nigeria. We don't even have areas where we can just be ourselves entirely. We're starting to have a lot of IT hubs. We have a lot of tech hubs, but we still need to see where creatives are given an area, a space to go off and design how they live in that area, and then their output. We can see what their output would be from that.
I completely agree. There's just so much. There's so many different angles to this. But then let's think towards the positives now. Let's think towards actual innovations, programs, things that you think are essentially necessary to sort of nurture this emerging industry, because the industry is still there. It is still making money. But to nurture it, it needs an infusion of something. But what do you think that something may be?
PR, 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 PR.
Why did I think? I know you were going to say that.
You knew I was going to say that. Well, because PR tells a story, and we need to tell our story. We need the access to tell our story and tell our story how we want it told. A few people have been so inspiring in pushing their foot forward and taking that stand. Mo Abudu, namely, to name a few, BAP, Bolanle Austin Peters, just to name a few, trying very hard to take a bite of the global creative industry and put our map in there, put our flag in there. So there's a lot of positives to look to. When you see more, sorry?
Afrif,
exactly. Chioma, I believe, is the head of Afrif.
Yes,
exactly. Exactly. So festivals. Tokini, let's then talk about people who are putting together festivals that allow us to be in global news. So this is a huge positive thing, because there's almost nowhere you go to in the world now that you don't hear somebody excited to see that you're a Nigerian. There's almost nowhere you go that you don't hear our music. My sister was in Morocco last week, in a village in Morocco. It wasn't in any of the main towns at all. And it was Afro beats back to back, when they were doing their performance at the resort. So positively speaking, the creative industry is rebranding Nigeria. And that's why I say PR. Positively speaking, the creative industry through music and now film is telling a good story, telling an investable story about Nigeria, so that investors can come in and also support us in the work that we're doing here.
I'm thinking about we've already touched on PR and communication. I was going to go there actually, because there needs to be a narrative. If you're watching a Hollywood movie or even a music video, in many cases, Americans are proud to be American. You almost always see an American flag at least once an hour. If you check the average American movie, once an hour, seeing the flag either on a uniform or on a car, or actually outside someone's house in a series. Branding and PR and communications, it's shaping a narrative for the industries abroad. What do you think we can do? What would you, if you were on a panel now, if you were on a board where you could make that change, what would you do? What little spice would you add to our PR narrative that could make a change?
What spice have I not added yet in my own little way? In my own little way. What more spice can we add? Honestly, we keep pushing the boundary. We keep pushing the boundary. One major thing that made me the happiest person in the world was seeing BBC Pidgin, BBC Yoruba, BBC Igbo. It hasn't come to my language yet. We don't have BBC TV yet, but I'm hoping that we progress towards that. But these things, these things look, they can easily go under, be swept under the rug as though it's not a big deal. But this is a huge deal to be able to reach a wider audience of people who can also share their stories, because it's not only us in the cities that have these stories about Africa to tell. Africa is still very much about villages. So having BBC, an international platform as BBC, translated into many languages, affords us and allows us to add that spice that you're asking me about. So our spice is us, is when we are allowed to really be ourselves. And then when we look on social media, another thing that excites me is seeing the enormous amount of chefs springing up everywhere and showing us how to cook our food in ways that will be more, appealing, quote unquote, to foreigners. And then now I've seen the spillover of that. Of course, we saw Jollof Wars, we saw all these kinds of things, but I'm following around.
Do you remember the fufu?
And the fufu thing. I mean, I'm not a fufu person, so I didn't really pay attention to that challenge.
Everyone was just lapping up fufu,
eating the thing, you see,
doing their hand, and I was just like, "What is going on?" Fufu that my mom essentially stuffed down my throat almost all my teenage years.
Exactly. And now look at people like doing a challenge of fufu, and like I was saying, I'm following some random family in America, some lady that has 9 or 10 children. I don't know if you know this lady, young lady, Indian lady. But she was cooking jollof rice. She's like, "Oh, join me as I cook dinner for my 10 kids and my family of however many, roasting habanero peppers, writing her own recipe of jollof rice." And I'm like, well, there you go. We've seeped into you. We've landed on your doorstep. You can't ignore us.
Yeah, you can't ignore us. So we're here. We're right there. The industry is becoming a global influence. It's a train that's already moving, and it kind of feels like if you don't jump on that train, it's gonna leave you at the station. But then the visibility we're getting, do you think we're actually maximizing it? Do you think we're actually using it to the best of our ability? And now I'll say this: I'm a big fan of Netflix, of Prime, of Paramount, and all the efforts they've made here in Nigeria. However, it does kind of feel like our stories are being put on international platforms that are not ours. It kind of feels like the platforms belong to other people. They're giving us the visibility we've craved for so long, but doesn't it feel like we're creating a library of Congress of our content on someone else's doorstep? I don't know what your opinion is on this particular thing. It's just been right there on top of my head. How do we ensure that African artists and creatives get the recognition they deserve on our stage?
This is really, you hit something here, Titi. That's really deep. That's really deep.
Wow.
And it is that is that age-old dilemma of we're stuck in one kind dance with our colonizers. We're stuck in some sort of a waltz, shall you? Because it's not an African dance that we're stuck in. We're stuck in their own type of dance. And indeed, we are racking up and stocking up a lot of our stories on platforms that we don't own. There's a lot that needs to be done in terms of gaining enough trust in a wider audience for Nigerians to open up their own platforms and have people run to them. But here's the thing. I think that if somebody stands up and does that, I think we will go to that platform, because I'm sure that we want to own our stories. We don't only want to put out our stories, we want to own them as well. I'm certain that enough of us have learned from the likes of Michael Jackson's and Prince, and about the importance of owning what you've written or what you've put out creatively. Um, these guys, these Netflix guys, still offer pretty paychecks, but it's
Yeah.
still, you're so right. And that's why I said you touched on something so deep, because essentially it's still a little insulting to buy our story from us. And there's a criteria for how you can even shoot films, and
Yeah.
how they appear on these platforms. So we still need where we're putting our stuff out and it looks like us. But
Yeah.
we're playing on a global stage when it comes to that. And when it comes to these kinds of things, I would say that we need to let our strategy override our emotional reaction to these
Mm,
things. So if we're not experts, like I said, being an expert is really important. One thing about the creative industry in Nigeria is, as Africans, we're all ineptly creative. And
mm,
anybody can get up and do something creative. So that defining mark of being an expert at something is what we need to really advance our industry. Um, so if we are not yet experts in these platforms and streaming and all of that, then hey, can we penetrate those platforms and learn what we need to learn from them, and
and
then take from that and build on that?
mm,
Certainly can. And I think that could be an objective. You asked me about an objective
yeah.
earlier. I think
Yeah.
that could be an objective.
Mm,
It certainly is for me when I'm in certain rooms, and everybody in that room doesn't look like me. I'm looking at what I'm taking from this that
mm,
I don't already have in my armory of knowledge.
sure.
And then I'll take it. I want to imbibe it. I want to make it African and Nigerian, and then I want to put it back out. So I feel like if we do this collectively and collaboratively, we should build up to owning our own platforms and having to pay Americans to put their films on our platforms as well, actually.
One of these days, one of these days, and
But
we'll probably come back to this particular podcast and say that we wanted it to happen and it did happen, and
amen.
hopefully
Amen.
we'll be on the platforms when that happens. Now, I've been looking at this flyer and trying to bring it in as soon as I could, but we haven't touched on Her Hope Initiative. You need to let us know what this is all about. And there's something coming up tomorrow, right? 6 p.m.
Tomorrow. Yes.
So
We
talk to
have a
us.
conversation coming up tomorrow. So her Hope Initiative is, so I was involved in a project last year. Small Business Big World was project managing a project that happened last year. A few embassies in Nigeria, along with the Gloria Steinem Equality Fund in America, which you might know as the Me Too movement, along with about 9 other embassies last year, came together to hold a press conference and to show a screening of Oloture, the movie, and to discuss this adverse global crime of sex trafficking and human trafficking. We managed that project end to end. We had a very successful turnout. And I caught the bug in the middle of planning this project and working on this with my team. I personally caught the bug because these are stories that have been around me my whole life. There's no way that you haven't come across trafficking, child trafficking, older person trafficking. We may not have had the vocabulary for it, but it's around us. It's been around us. And to that effect, like I said, igniting passions in people, this ignited something in me. This project that we worked on just highlighted a bigger issue in terms of young girls coming out and fulfilling their dreams and being who they can be. I'm a young girl. I'm a woman. I'm a young girl. Did I say I'm a young girl? I wish I was. I'm a young woman, but I this one topic is now very personal, so I have to come into my personal self and really respond and talk about this. So this event tomorrow is the first event that Her Hope Initiative will be putting on. It's a virtual town hall, and we've made it virtual so that we can have attendance from all over the world. That reputation that Nigerian girls have even internally, even inside of Nigeria. I come from a state where, once I say I'm from Benue State, there are one or two stereotypes that will pop out, especially as a woman. That stereotype was just driving me crazy, because here I am trying to push my professional life forward. But anywhere you go, you're from Benue. Oh, sex is the topic. You're from Edo, sex. You're from Calabar, sex. And it's like, can women be anything other than a commodity? Can we not be hypersexualized? Can our sexuality not become a currency? Because I'd like to still be able to choose how I express myself sexually, even, and not be judged for this. More importantly, because that's a privileged perspective I'm speaking on. More importantly, children and young girls in impoverished areas are looked on as pure commodities. A family is not doing well economically or financially. You're looking to daughters. You're looking to when this girl is getting married. You're looking to where you can push this girl off to. A lot of families are just okay to turn a blind eye for the daughter to go out or daughters to go out and sell themselves and come back to feed the family. In the course of this selling, in the course of these commodities, in the course of all these things happening, we're breaking down an entire demographic of people who give birth to the society. We're killing people's mindsets. We're definitely killing their bodies, and we're deteriorating what our future should be. Our future is in the hands of women. Women give birth to society, but we're systematically killing our women. We're killing young girls, especially young girls. Young boys are trafficked too, don't get me wrong, but it's very intentional and deliberate as what's going on specifically with young girls. So if you haven't watched Oloture, I urge you to watch Oloture, because that story is real and it's pertinent. And as the economy becomes even more tough to navigate, it's almost as though our choices are limited. So this conversation is to open up this dialogue and ask what our options really are. How can we navigate these economic crises without having to sell ourselves to eat? So this cannot be the only way. I'm just sure that this cannot be the only way. I'm certain about it. And we want to have that dialogue, that conversation tomorrow. We have quite a few people on panels. I won't even really, I won't be on the panel. But people like Anto Lecky. Anto has a project that she's been working on for many years called Edo Girls Are Fly. She and I related on this. She's from Benin, I'm from Benue, and those stereotypes. She has the same kind of story that goes with that. And being a big brother,
that has become a stereotype in itself.
That is gaining fast gaining a reputation of being an engine room for churning out what they're saying it's churning out. But Anto is on that panel. We have a few others who are escaping my mind, but we've partnered with very important key contributors, but we want to hear from everybody. We want to hear from young girls. Some of us are 40 and over, so we may not necessarily have up-to-date information, as the streets would say, but we need to hear. We need to hear so that we can begin to create solutions. This cannot be it, and we certainly just can't stop here. We just cannot continue to push out more girls selling themselves.
I wanted to touch briefly on the topic, unraveling the economic crisis. That's what's tagged here. We've already touched on the reason why you decided to make sure that this town hall happens, but then the theme, you must have had a particular direction when it comes to the economic crisis. That is hitting hard on everyone. But what do you hope to achieve by using this as a theme?
It's just the truth, Titi. It's just the truth. I'm all about the truth, and I'm all about real and realness. And we want to go into this work to rehabilitate survivors of trafficking. But what comes up repeatedly when speaking to survivors or people who have been doing this work is what the economic conditions are that lead people to have fewer choices to make, than to be brainwashed and unfortunately then trafficked afterwards. So the truth of the matter is people are responding to what is their situation right now, to what is our situation right now. So the conversation has to be collective, and it has to be holistic. So
Yeah.
taking a holistic approach was to break it down. Before you're trafficked, there must be a reason. There must be a reason behind that. So let's take it from that reason. Let's have a sense of understanding before we can progress the conversation to talking about solutions or to talking about alternatives or anything else. But let's understand the situation on ground as it is. The economy is tightening. How is that affecting trafficking in Nigeria, but globally? How is that affecting trafficking globally? It's popping up in the news everywhere. It's popping up all the time. The Jeffrey Einstein, I can't remember his name. I don't like sticking criminals' names in my head, but
Yeah.
it's popping up everywhere. I don't want to say our I don't want to say
We know
his
where we
name, but we all know.
know
Sorry?
where we know where we live. We know
We
that.
know. But I mean, even with P. Diddy and the stories of abuse started bubbling underneath all of this. So
Yeah.
trafficking is being looked at as a lucrative business.
Yeah.
This is modern day slavery. So if we're going to be critical of our ancestors and be saying, but how could they just sell my relatives after seeing a mirror, after seeing a gun? You're doing it. We're doing it. We are doing it. It's modern day slavery, and we can't look away from it. So I'm
I just
trying for us to understand.
wanted to touch briefly on the speakers you have here. Oswiwu Doris, anti-human trafficking, FGM and women's rights advocate, a feminist and digital space mentor. She's been working to empower female survivors in Nigeria for quite a while. We also have Temilade here, and Temilade Adeyinka is going to be speaking at this event
Temilade is part
as
of Femme
well.
Afrique. Femme Africa.
Yeah, Femme Africa. She's also a gender advocacy analyst, writer, content developer
Yes.
as well. Then we also have, um, is this Kessiana? Yes, Kessiana. We are Incognito, and she's also been an amazing support to your project. It says here she has the firm belief in transformative power of communication, and she's going to be joining you on this particular journey with your event, or rather the town hall happening tomorrow. Nafisa is here as well. Nafisa Atiku. Now she is also a dynamic leader and has an amazing portfolio spanning advocacy, gender justice, governance, and social impact as a Walter Carrington Fellow. Interesting. Now, I'm seeing the list of people you have on this, and I'm hearing your message, and I'm hoping that people join this town hall. It's going to be on Zoom. Yes, it's going to be on Zoom.
Yes.
Maybe you
Yes.
can send us the joining link, and we can add it to the comment section of our page on YouTube,
Okay.
and of course our pages on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and in fact anywhere you get your podcasts. So just so you know, I had to read that out because of those who are listening via audio only. That's why I had to read out those profiles, Doosuur. But
I appreciate
we
it. Thank you.
we've pushed it past what we've gone 48 minutes. Goodness me. It was supposed to be a 30-minute interview. What were we talking about? Yes, important issues, important things that need to be touched on. As many opportunities we have to talk about them, we will. Good luck with the town hall. Good luck with the town hall. Thank you so much, Doosuur, for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Titi. Thank you. Are you rounding up? Because I'm about to say, Titi, when am I coming back on? So that we just...
Okay, so I was actually gonna, hand you the microphone, for like maybe a 1 or 2 minute final thoughts kind of thing. I've not found a name for my final thoughts thing yet on my podcast. I'll find a name for it. I'm supposed to like, but
Final
yeah,
thoughts sounds pretty good. Final thoughts works.
final thoughts that someone could, hang on to before we go. This creative industry needs something, and so a lot of people are not sure exactly what it is, what it could be that would break the camel's back, or be the standing beam that holds everything up for the future. So talk to us about that.
I will leave you with three things, and so it may not take up to 2 minutes. The three things I will leave us with, and myself included, is to remember to always be you. I'm going to quote Shakespeare, but maybe he wasn't the first person to say it, but it's a quote that I love and I live by. To thine own self be true. You can only come out into the world when you know who you are and when you're true to yourself. So the importance of being you is that you make a stamp in the world by being yourself. The second thing I would say is collaborate. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Collaboration over competition. Community over competition. Competition is healthy, but we can look at it from a collaborative perspective. And there is such a way to do competition that is still collaborative. The third thing would be that we should learn, we should research, and we should become experts at the thing that we are interested in and we are passionate about. I'm big on researching, and it's gotten me really far in life. So I want to encourage others to be deep researchers. There's a lot of information out there, and it's free and we can access it. So please do. Research, learn, and become an expert. So those are my final thoughts. But most importantly, I really want to thank you, Titi, for an engaging and intriguing and riveting conversation. It might be one of my favorite conversations I've had, certainly with the media. Certainly. And I, again, have to commend your team. I have to commend your team publicly, that I've got a solid team behind you. Leading up to this interview, I've had massive support from people I've never met, and they've just helped along the way. And that's how the creative industry can be, if we're the model to the world. But you've got a superb team, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. So please, well done, and continue doing this.
Thank you so much. The comments are coming in, and we didn't really have much time to say hi to people that are watching and listening. Anauma Abba, thank you so much for your comment. We have Tamwante Briggs. Thank you.
These are my people with the brick-breaking names.
Tivdo, TG, is it TG or Tig? TG, I'm not sure how to pronounce
TG, Tamno Wanate Briggs. That's our GM at Small Business Big World, and Anna is our head coordinator. Tivdo is my big brother, and we're going to ignore Cook Cole and his comments.
Yeah, we're gonna. But thank you
Cole. Thank you very much.
All right, then we have to do this again sometime soon. There's always something to talk about, always new projects. And of course, whenever your team want to share anything on any particular area, especially in the creative industry, I'm always here. I'm a big fan of PR. I'm a big fan of platforms like yours and the amazing work you're doing. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right, so we have to wrap it up, but I just wanted to, put it out there that if anyone would like to be on the one-on-one podcast, it's very easy. All you have to do is send us an email. Just send it to dynamitepodcastnetwork@gmail.com, and we will be getting back to you. And Doosuur knows we get back to you. We do. And yeah, of course, just use the tagline one-on-one podcast. You can also join the conversation, subscribe, and follow at Titi the Dynamite at Dynamite Podcast Network. And one of these days is going to become Dynamite Production Network. So watch this space. We're still a podcast network for now, But yeah, Doosuur is probably going to be part of that growth plan. We're going to have loads of conversations behind the scenes.
I'm already
All right,
texting you on underneath it.
all right, then. I have to wrap it up here, but thank you to everyone who tuned in. Until
Thank you
next
so
time,
much.
have a great
Bye.
bye. Okay, then, for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow at Titi the Dynamite and at Dynamite Podcast Network on all social media platforms. We are, of course, wherever you get your podcasts from: Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever it is. And of course, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.